Hello, friends. This is Benjamin from English Classes Online. In today's lesson, we are going to look at the basics of the IELTS speaking test. We want to look at the key steps for scoring high in this test. Let's get started right away. Now, the IELTS speaking test at a glance. In this speaking test, you will have a discussion with a certified examiner. That's why it's called the speaking interview. It is usually an interactive discussion as real life as possible, okay? So you expect to engage in a real life conversation with an examiner, and that's what the speaking test looks like. And so the speaking test is 11 to 14 minutes long, and it comes in 3 parts, part 1, part 2, part 3. In part 1, you will answer questions about yourself and your family. In part 2, you will speak about a topic, and in part 3, you will have a longer discussion about the topic introduced in part 2, okay? And then what to expect in the IELTS speaking test. In the first place, the IELTS speaking test is the same for both the general training and the academic IELTS. You know, there are 2 types of IELTS tests. The general test for those who are going to work abroad, and the academic test for those who are going to study abroad. And in the 4 IELTS modules, listening, reading, writing, and speaking, listening and speaking, you know, are the same questions for both the general and the academic IELTS test. But reading and writing come with different questions for each time. So the speaking test is the same. The same questions are given to everyone, whether you are for the general training or for the academic test. Then the duration is usually 4 to 5 minutes. And in the initial part, which is the introductory aspect, the examiner will introduce him or herself, and then you will introduce yourself. So you should know how to introduce yourself, not saying so much, but, you know, politely introducing yourself. I'll show you an example of how to do that. Then after that, 2 topics will be chosen. The examiner is going to ask you some questions about yourself, and then he or she will talk to you about certain topics. You know, it could be about your hometown, your neighborhood, your work, your study, family, friends, food, hobbies, sports, name it. But the beauty of this is that they are not technical topics that require some special expertise or knowledge. They are things about yourself, so you should be able to talk about them. And then 2 topics, as I already mentioned, will be chosen. Now, let's look at some common topics in the IELTS speaking, some topics that frequently occur. Your work, your study, your hometown, your neighborhood, your home, your hobbies, your friends, birthdays, childhood, sports, clothes, daily routine. As I earlier said, there are things of interest to you, and there are things that concern you. So you are not being asked something about someone else's hometown. No, it's about your own hometown, your neighborhood, your hobbies, the things you like doing. And then it could be about your family and friends, the kind of food you enjoy eating, flowers, computers, dictionaries, shopping, evenings, internet, music, pets, happiness, going out, things about everyday life. It could be about the weather in your village or town, television, the television, newspapers, reading, leisure time, or transport. Okay. Then some of the questions that will likely, occur in the speaking test are as follows. Let's talk about your hometown or village. What kind of place is it? What's the most interesting part of your town or village? What kind of jobs do the people in your town or village do? What would you say, or would you say is a good place to live, and why? These are the kinds of questions. Let's move on to talk about accommodation. Tell me about the kind of accommodation you live in. You live in a 2-bedroom apartment, you live in a duplex house, you should be able to describe the kind of accommodation you live in. How long have you lived there? What do you like about living there? What sort of accommodation would you most like to live in? Then there are some parameters for assessing your answers, and there are 4 of them. First is pronunciation. The second one, fluency. The third one, vocabulary. And the fourth one is grammar. I will throw more lights on each of these. Now let's first look at the do's and don'ts for scoring high in the test. Now, things you should do include the following. You need to be confident. Your confidence level, you should work on your confidence level. So in the interview, you should be able to speak boldly yet politely, all right? And be able to make eye contact with the examiner. You don't have to feel shy or timid or start looking at the floor. No, you should be able to raise your level of self-esteem and confidence very high so that you can maintain eye contact with the person you are talking to. A lot of people feel shy, and a lot of people, suffer from inferiority complex. All these you must work on and raise your level of confidence. Okay, that's really important. Then the second one is that you should be friendly. This is just obvious because you are sitting face to face with an examiner who has the authority to give award marks or to reduce marks. So you don't want to be aggressive or hostile to a person like that. Naturally, if you are a responsible person, you don't even have to be hostile to anyone, let alone an examiner who is going to score, to award marks and scores to your performance, who is going to judge your performance. Okay? Then the third one is that you should show excitement where necessary. For example, you are asked a question about your hobby or your favorite sport or the activity you enjoy doing most. You don't talk about something like that with some coldness or lack of interest, because the question itself demands excitement. This is something you enjoy doing, so you should be able to talk about it enthusiastically. And then you should use the appropriate vocabulary and be able to express your ideas with the appropriate words. If you are talking about sports, you should be able to use words associated with sports. If you are discussing music, you should use words that are relevant to music, and so on and so forth. Then, of course, you should be able to stay, to stick to the topic that you are discussing without digressing, and make sure, as I already mentioned, use words that are appropriate to that topic. Very, very important. Now let's look at more do's and don'ts. And this is an example. You know, if you are asked to talk about something you like or enjoy doing, it's important you find alternative ways of talking about it. You don't use one phrase repeatedly, you know, a low-level phrase, and you keep saying, I like music, I like doing this, I like. No, there are other words you can use interchangeably with I like. You can say, I enjoy, I love, I prefer X to Y, I really love doing this, I really enjoy listening to inspirational music, I really enjoy playing football, you know, this or that is my favorite type of music and all that, you know, so you should be able to use a variety of expressions rather than sticking to one that might make you sound monotonous. Now, this is what you should avoid. Avoid extremely short answers. If you are asked a question that requires yes or no, you do not simply say yes or no and stop there. It's not enough. If you say yes, then you should be able to give reasons why you agree. Or if you say no, you should be able to give reasons why you disagree. So always expand your answers by giving examples where necessary. This is very, very important. Then more on the notes, if you are introducing yourself, for example, you could simply say, hi, my name is Benjamin, nice to meet you, okay? It shouldn't be a lengthy thing that you want to talk about everything about you, no. Hi, my name is Benjamin, nice to meet you, okay? Then you should also avoid being jittery or, be, you know, looking embarrassed. No, these questions are not difficult. They are not far-fetched either. They are things about you, your hometown, your work, your study, the things you like doing, and so on and so forth. So when you are asked a question, don't immediately work yourself up. You know, think about it and then respond politely, okay? You can go back memory lane, remember certain things from your experiences growing up as a child in your hometown and all that, just to buttress your point. There are things about you, so you should be able to talk about them. And one thing that should help you to answer questions in the speaking test is adequate preparation. I cannot emphasize this enough. You know, if you prepare adequately for any exam or test, you will naturally do well because practice makes perfect. So when we look at the common topics, you should be able to look at these common topics and, you know, find material on them and begin to practice. If you are asked questions about your hometown, what are you going to say? If you are asked questions about your village, about your hobby, you know, all these are all, look at all the topics and then prepare. Practice, 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 so that when you are asked a question, even if you have not come across that particular topic, your experience and the knowledge you have acquired when researching on other topics will help you to say something meaningful about that. Then, what the examiners and markers are looking for, these are the parameters for assessing your performance that we talked about earlier on. The criteria they are going to use to assess your answers. There are four of them. And we begin with pronunciation. Pronunciation is about how intelligible you are when you speak. Intelligible means that someone listening to you should be able to hear what you are saying clearly. And I need to say this, you don't have to mimic a native English speaker. You don't have to become a copycat and want to sound like every English native speaker. No, it's not necessary. The various English native speakers from different countries, from America, from Britain, from UK, from Canada, they don't sound exactly the same. That's why you have the American accent different from the British accent and so on and so forth. So the important thing is for you to express your ideas very clearly and pronounce English words very correctly and clearly so that an English speaker from any part of the world will hear what you are saying and understand it clearly. That's just what is required. Then fluency is about how effortlessly you can speak. You know, if you are proficient in the use of a language, then of course you should be able to use that language naturally and let it flow, okay? That is what fluency is about, your ability to speak naturally and effortlessly, all right? Just like water flowing from its natural source. And you should be able to use transition words and phrases such as in the first place, moreover, finally, or another reason why this is that. One other important point is this, and so on and so forth. Your ability to organize your ideas and, you know, be able to start with one idea, then discuss it to a conclusion, pick another idea and introduce it with a transition phrase is really important. It's an important aspect of fluency, okay? Then the next thing is vocabulary, and it shows how well you can use a variety of meaningful English words in their proper places, okay? Your ability to use high-level words and be able to, you know, use a variety of them instead of sticking to one low-level word and repeating one type of word or phrase in a manner that could make you sound monotonous or archaic, okay? So now the last one is vocabulary, is grammar, and it has to do with your ability to construct and use correct sentences, you know, and also use your tenses correctly. You don't talk about past events using the present tenses or talk about present or habitual or future events using the past tenses. So you should have a good command of the English grammar. And English grammar has to do with the rules that govern how you arrange words in sentences. So this is really key. And of course, this is where we draw the curtain in today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. If you have any questions, any suggestions, or any comments, kindly leave them in the comment section below. If you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. Click on the bell icon as well, so that whenever a new video goes live on the channel, you will be notified instantly. I look forward to seeing you in the next class. Goodbye for now, and remain blessed.